the fucking hand of God coming out and setting off the nuke. You can't like. And I mean, how cool is that? Is like God's like, yeah, fuck you, like, gotcha, you know? Like,
I was really in a space that day that because I stopped, I lost. And
Yep.
I'm just like an idiot from Rittman. I'm going to change the bio to that. Let's get to the business at hand. The stand.
oh my goodness.
Hey.
Oh, this is outrageous. I could not sign. It kept trying to call from the Long Walk Short Drink email account, and you are not a recent contact in that account, so I couldn't find you. And every time I tried to I would log in as my personal account so that I could call you, it would reopen back up in the Long Walk Short Drink email.
Well, I'm glad you're here because I was just about to
Yes.
call you. Sorry, that's a Tenacious D callback. That's in the tribute episode.
It's just like so frustrating.
Now, I don't see your video at the moment.
Oh, wait. What is going on? You can't see me?
No, I see like the still picture.
Oh.
Like there you are.
You see me now?
I do.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah.
That sounds frustrating.
Yeah. No, it was a little frustrating. You know what's funny is I'm looking at myself right now and my new microphone blends in with my mustache and beard.
Mm-hmm.
So it just looks like I have no mouth. It, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like it's like this 3D superimposed image over my mouth, like blah, 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 blah. Like you can't even see my lips moving around that. That's funny.
I took a screen grab so we can share that. But
Yeah.
it's like you have a long silver. There you are.
So welcome to Long Walk Short Drink.
Yeah, that's our earliest intro ever.
Yeah, it was the earliest intro ever. It's 9:30,
Right.
and I have a very early. You're still at work.
Yeah. Our differential today actually kind of works out because I usually have an extra hour than you, but I have an hour to drive home. So I'll be more motivated, but you'll keep us on task. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I really like 11 is really pushing it. So
okay,
12 but I definitely want to give our topic a fair shot because it's quite the undertaking to say the least. So welcome, Dave, man. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. Nothing. I had I can't think of anything like fun to tell you, but I do want to make sure that we address the fact that something that hasn't come up in the previous episodes we recorded since the break, that you actually do have a new position, a new job. Like we've talked a lot about your resume.
Yeah.
We had a listener contact us saying how he related to the whole struggle with wanting to be a teacher, but the sort of livable wage and various, curriculum type stuff. He's like, I so relate to this thing that your buddy is sharing. And so I want, for his satisfaction and everyone else's and my own edification, tell us as much as you wish to about that new situation.
I did get a new job. I left the teaching. I left the classroom. I am not teaching right now. I'm as comfortable enough saying I am associated with education still. That's about as much as I'd like to take it. But yeah, I'm not in the classroom. It was really weird. I was like, it was my first week that I was in my new position, my new job. And I have a really long commute with this new job, which I think is how we've pretty much referenced my new position is like, oh, we've got to record up to this time because you got to get to bed because you got to get up early because you have a long commute.
How early do you have to get up?
My alarm starts going off around 5.
Oh, no.
It was even earlier, and that just was not working. And 5 is really starting not to work, but it needs to.
Oh, God. That's so unacceptable.
I need to be on the road as close to 6 as possible.
That sucks. Sorry.
But the whole point of that is I'm going in before rush hour. Which I mean I can say I drive to Columbus from Dayton, which is it's 86 miles one way. So if there's zero traffic, like if we went in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m., it'd be about an hour and 15 minutes. If there's any kind of hiccup, it's an hour and a half to get there. Yeah. So
I actually can, as terrible as that sounds to me now, I realize the first probably 2 years of the job I still have, I commute from Northfield to the Twin Cities, and I used to take the main drag the whole way, and it was always about an hour. It was like an hour and a half was not uncommon. I'll say that. And
you still have an hour commute, right?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I found that. Thankfully, my job allows for a lot of flexibility because they knew I'd have to make this commute. And in Minnesota, the weather can get dicey, and because instantly there's like a speck of snow, even now, 2 hours for sure, 2 hours. But yeah. And then there's construction season in the summer that suddenly, inexplicably, things take longer. But I was very fortunate to find that if I left closer to 8 o'clock, if I tried to leave earlier so that I could come home earlier, I would hit the rush hour traffic, and ultimately the commute would be longer than it needed to be. So if I leave closer to 8 o'clock, even 7:30 is worse than like 8-ish.
Wow.
I found a combination of two roads that basically gets me around the main congested part and has it down to right about an hour door to door. So, but I know how painful an hour and a half can be in comparison, because when that happens sometimes, I'm like, now that's double what I'm used to. Right. And yeah, the whole early morning thing is so unacceptable, like the 5 a.m. But you're liking it so far, right? That's more.
Oh, absolutely. That is just no. It's fantastic. It is just really reassuring. In the decision to leave the classroom, it's just a really great organization, and really happy to be a part of it, and excited for what the future holds with them. So we'll see.
That's awesome. Before we dig into this, Dan, I had a couple of things, because the last episode we talked to one of the cabin kids, to Twinkie, for a very fun and long conversation.
Yeah, Jesus, wasn't that a great episode?
It was a great time. I haven't edited it yet, so I don't know if it's a great episode. But
but yeah, no, you're right. It was a great session, though. Like, I remember going in, and did I talk to you about this yet?
I don't think we haven't. We did a little shop talk prior to this, but not about the episode.
I went in and was talking to Ash, and she was like, "How did it go?" And I was like, "Oh, it was so much fun. Like, it was so great to talk to Twinkie." She's like, "Yeah, you just kept yelling his name." And I was like, "Oh yeah, you had to have been there," but it was hilarious.
Yeah. I see these stills that I'm sure I'll put on the Twitter of you. Like, it kind of looks like an Elvis pose when you would do the "Don't Call Me Twinkie." I want that to be. That'll be a hashtag. I'll have to make sure that happens. Which, by the way, awesome. if you're hearing this somehow and give a shit, we're on Twitter for any and all visual components of the show.
Absolutely.
At LWSD Pod. Palmer and I will both be contributing to that and kind of integrating it in a way that even if you have looked at it, we haven't prior. So that'll be fun. Oh yeah. So one of the things though, the Twitter, that we missed in that last show, and maybe even the one before it, is your smoking stats.
Yeah.
And actually, if you do a screen grab, if you're comfortable with that, that'd be nice. It's nice to have a visual to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a phone,
Yeah. So right now I have been a non-smoker for 220 days.
Nice.
13 hours and 37 minutes. I have not smoked 3,750 cigarettes.
Whoa.
I have saved $1,124.89.
Nice.
I've earned 15 days back onto my life. And let's see here. 2.1 million people have died from tobacco related illnesses since I quit smoking.
Wow. I don't hear that one as much in the past episodes. I guess because it's a downer, but that's a crazy number. Yeah.
Here, let me, I'm just going to text this to you because I'll forget.
Yeah, so, no, that's great. And congratulations, by the way. I love that I can take for granted that I just ask you, like, what are your stats? Not have, just assuming that you're still on the path,
Oh yeah, no, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, as we've discussed, and I guess, yeah, you've had a fucked up year. I mean, this part of hopefully has been great with the podcast and stuff, but all the loss.
Oh yeah, no, the podcast is really, it's actually been one of the things that has helped me, like, been a something to look forward to, and all this shit. Yeah, my it kind of got brushed over, but my stepmom passed away. That sucked.
Yeah, within 90 days, what you were saying of
less than 90 days.
Her husband, your father, that's
82 days between my dad and her or something like that. So that's crazy. Yeah, that was outrageous.
And I don't know that I ever met your dad like face to face, and so I'm sure I didn't meet your stepmom, but yeah, were you too close? Or I mean, I haven't heard a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had a healthy relationship for a stepmom and stepson.
Mm-hmm.
Her kids, my step siblings, technically, like, I don't refer to them as step siblings, like they're my sister and brothers.
Oh, that's like great. Yeah.
And with her, it was definitely, I mean, we definitely had a very good relationship. So she was always really respectful of, like, never requiring or trying to, like, take the place of my mom, like, mm-hmm. she was okay with being another mom,
mm-hmm.
So, and she always didn't work, but like always wanted to make sure I understood that she considered me to be one of her kids.
Oh,
so
that's nice. Yeah.
Which was good. I mean, and that is almost a direct quote. So, which was nice.
When did they get married, her and your dad?
2000, I think. 2001.
Okay.
So, Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. That sucks. I mean, it always
Yeah,
sucks.
it does. It does.
Jesus.
But on to better things. So, I don't know.
Well, I have so some of the other things, a lot of this is driven by my Twitter activities, which I have a lot of fun populating that based on the things we talk about with visual components and stuff. But I've taken to mentioning or calling out things that we mentioned on the show, and if they're something you like, I call them, Palmer picks this, and something that you've spoken well of on the show, and likewise Dave digs this. So I thought we could try to introduce that in a more structured way, hopefully more organic than I'm doing it today going forward. Maybe just like once each show, not that it has to be one thing, but even a kind of just, yeah. So like, I know I'm just springing it on you, but what's the first thing that comes to mind? Or like, what would be your pick of just like something cool that you're digging right now?
So I'm listening to the Harry Potter series right now, and I'm listening to it's the British version on audiobook.
Jim Dale, right?
No, Stephen Fry.
Oh.
Reads the British versions.
Is the Jim Dale am I thinking of the right guy? Is he the guy
I'm pretty sure he does the American ones.
Oh, I would want the British one, I would imagine. So
Stephen Fry does the British version, which I have to keep remembering. If you see me leaning back, like tell me to get on mic because I keep leaning back.
You get the hang of it. I did the same thing for a while. Palmer's got a new mic today than he's had before, and you just kind of gotta get right up on it to get that Twinkie rich radio voice.
Yeah, like does it sound like that when I get up on it like that? Does that sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah. Smooth. What were we talking about?
You're listening to the British. Ooh. Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah, the British version of the Harry Potter books, and so those are good in their own right. I mean, they're essentially like 98% the same. Really, the main difference is the slang. Even the title of the first book, that's a big difference.
There's actual differences beyond just the sound of the person's voice.
Oh yeah. So like the American version of the first book, the title is The Sorcerer's Stone, right? Mm-hmm. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. In Britain, it was released under the title Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, I have heard that, but I didn't realize that was why. Okay.
Yeah. And so, and things like, their slang for, just like an example is like calling tennis shoes trainers and like hoodies, jumpers, stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So that stuff is different. So those are all great in their own right. But so this is what I'm digging right now. One of the fun things that I have done, I spend 3 hours in a car every day. So I've been going through these very quickly. And there's a particular phrase that I listen for while Stephen Fry is narrating these books. And so far, I believe it occurs in books 2 through 6. It's fun to listen for where this phrase pops up, like the I have a bad feeling about this in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right. So Stephen Fry tells the story much better than I'm about to do, but basically, when he had been asked to narrate this new book that was about to be released, that this young author had created, that was about a wizard school. Mm-hmm. And so it was easy money. It was one afternoon's worth of work, and it was just easy money. And in part of the process of securing this job, he meets the author, this young J.K. Rowling, and she's very excited, and she says, I'm working on writing the sequel to this book right now. And he very condescendingly looks at her and says, oh, good for you, you know? And so when he gets hired to read the second book, there's this phrase. The phrase is, Harry pocketed it. Okay.
Oh.
And Stephen Fry could not say it. He had like this speech impediment. He had to say it like super slow to get it out. Because if he said it too fast, he would say, Harry pocketed it. Like, he just couldn't say it. So all right, so remember, flashback to, he was very condescending to her when he was reading the first book. And so he calls J.K. Rowling and he says, listen, I'm having a bit of trouble with this phrase. Do you care if I change it to Harry put it in his pocket? And he said there was a very pregnant pause. And she said to him, no, you can't change it. Click, and hung up on him. So that's awesome. So she like didn't back down and made him have to say it. Here's the punchline. She then proceeded in books 3, 4, 5, and 6 work in the phrase Harry pocketed it. So Stephen Fry had to read that phrase in every one of the books. It's just like this, and you can hear it in his voice, like his beat slows down so he can get through it every time. It's awesome.
That is glorious. I like that. The bride was just telling me that she's kind of feisty on Twitter because the bride is a big Harry Potter fan. And she read me some exchange that I'll try to find and repost on ours, where she's like really kind of, if you go after her, she'll come right back in a really super witty way.
She has absolutely zero problems. And who would be silly enough? I mean, you really only have to read the first book to know, like, this person is very, very talented. Like, they're world builders. Again, like, there's that phrase, like, that we keep coming back to. Like, she is a world builder. And I don't know if anybody else thinks of like the Harry Potter books in ways like this, but like, I was thinking about how they break down the course, and maybe this is the educator in me, but the way they break down the curriculum of the school, and to think that she's so consistent that like there's and like #geek right here, because so there's transfiguration classes and then there's charms classes, which one would just think like it's all just magic incantations with your wand. Like, what does it matter? But transfiguration is literally turning something into something else or changing the properties of something. Whereas charms is just affecting something, you know, like you're sending it across the room or summoning it to you.
Yeah. That'd be like the difference between like Expelliarmus and that'd be a charm, right? And then what's the other word?
Yes.
The
transfiguration.
Transfiguration would be like when Peter Pettigrew got turned into Scabbers.
Yeah, or like turning a hedgehog into a pincushion. That is yeah. Well, that's one of the like assignments that they have to do for her class, right? And that makes sense because that exists. We've read that in the book, but if you think about it from the thought process or the creative process, like she had to consciously make that decision that, oh no, there would be a class that covers spells that just do this, and there would be a class that covers spells that just do this, and then to build a full curriculum essentially. I mean, it's just again, and it's a throwaway. It's like almost filler on the page, right? But without it, it wouldn't be a world. Like, and that to me is like, that's the proof of world building. Anybody can write a good story. Like there are excellent stories that have absolutely no meat to them, like, I mean, there's plenty of just like the Expendable series is a great example of that. Like, absolutely fantastic story with zero meat to it. Yeah. Right.
Tons of beefcake, but no.
Exactly.
That's lame. Don't say lame. I learned recently lame is insensitive, and that makes sense now that I say it aloud, but that was stupid. That was a stupid joke, I could say. But anyway, I'm sorry, your analogy still stands. There's no meat to those movies.
But it just it's her and Stephen King, which we're going to get to here very directly. Soon,
he's biting on Twitter too. I found the Twitter thing that was so funny. Somebody says, quote, very fitting to @real Donald Trump. This is somebody to which she responds, someone called Frogulus Pepe, which is some kind of meme associated with the far right, I guess. It's like a frog.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it said, quote, very fitting to @real Donald Trump. Oh, that's what it is. Sorry. Quote, J.K. Rowling sends out, quote, you have enemies? Good. That means you stood up for something sometime in your life. Attributing that quote to Winston Churchill. So
right.
J.K. Rowling just puts that out, and then this sort of Frogulus Pepe responds, quote, very fitting to @real Donald Trump. He stands up for something very, very good, and you are his enemy, Mrs. Shitty Writer. To which she responds, sighs, well, who knows? If I try harder, I might be reincarnated as a lonely virgin hiding behind a cartoon frog.
Oh, man.
That's Harry Potter's mom, and it's like, don't fuck with her.
That's don't do it.
That's not really Harry Potter's mom. Harry Potter's mom, saved his life and
by sacrificing hers. Yeah,
and that's why Voldemort can't touch him.
What are you digging right now, Dave?
Sorry, I have a possibly slightly controversial thing. I avoided it. I watched, because the bride was out of town and nobody was there to judge me. I watched Mel Gibson's latest movie. Not the one he directed, but the one he was in last year, called Bloodfather.
Bloodfather?
Yeah, it's like it was a straight-to-video thing. He's done only a handful of movies in the last few years since all of this stuff was exposed about him being abusive and racist and all kinds of bad stuff. So as a guy growing up that really loved Mel Gibson, even once I heard a few of these like messages he left his wife, like really just hateful, she recorded them so that she could expose him for the abuse and stuff. Anyway, it sucked to hear and really whatever. But so I have kind of boycotted his work, I guess, since then, because I just couldn't, all I could hear was those horrible things echoed. But I kept hearing this movie, Bloodfather, is surprisingly good. So, and it's a very simple, the synopsis is an ex-con reunites with his estranged, wayward 17-year-old daughter to protect her from drug dealers who are trying to kill her.
I remember seeing the trailer for that. Like, coincidentally, doesn't it like take place in a trailer? Like she's,
it's a little bit. Yeah, he lives in a trailer. Yeah,
and is she like all strung out on drugs or something?
Yeah, and she's involved in some shit. Yeah, it's.
I remember seeing a trailer for that.
It's actually really good. It's
really?
done by I can't pronounce his name. Jean-Francois Richet. He's French.
That's my Joey.
Yeah, even in the EPK, like he only speaks French, and they had a translator on set and stuff. And it's based on a book, I guess. But it is the perfect sort of vehicle for Mel Gibson at this point. Like the character he plays, So if you're a guy like me that grew up loving him and was disappointed by what came out in the press,
right?
It's almost as though he's playing himself in a way as this. He's like 2 years, 1 year out of jail, 2 years sober, and his past and his history, both as a kind of an actor, action hero, and just public personality, play into this role so well, and the movie is so. It's like it's just fun. I don't know. It's great. I really recommend it.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That sounds awesome. What's that called again? Say it one more time. Give it another plug.
Bloodfather. It's called
Bloodfather.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's really really quite something, and much more than it seems, and kind of gets that. I don't know. It's just sort of perfect for him, and he's perfect in it, and reminded like what a great filmmaker he is, and what a great actor he is, and the fact that human beings fuck up. And just because you hear about things in the press, and maybe just because people don't go on a public campaign to apologize things, doesn't necessarily mean they should be written off forever. I mean, the bride says this thing about people. We are not our worst moments. And now, that said, she would be enraged to hear me say anything good about this man. But so anyway, but then so that's something I took some time to watch and really really dug. And then the very last thing I'd like to bring up before Stephen King is one more segment that I'd like us to institute that involves.
Wait, before we jump on to your last thing, can I jump in?
Of course.
Before we move off of this, because it's a tie to Mel Gibson. So how Mel Gibson has that homeless man beard right now, right? The really long, scraggly one. Have you seen the Logan trailer?
Yes, I did see the Logan trailer.
Okay, so if there was ever a Mel Gibson biopic, he could play Mel Gibson because he looks just like him. Like,
I hadn't thought of that
beard.
He wears the beard in Bloodfather too, and it's badass. It's not quite as big at that point, but it's a good look.
Who plays Wolverine? What's that guy's name?
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
looks just like Mel Gibson in real life right now.
That's awesome.
In the Logan trailer.
The Logan trailer is. I mean, I never have even seen any X-Men movie except for like one of the prequels that came out recently, and I know they're supposed to be amazing. So I don't have like a tie or a history to that whole thing, but just that trailer, I was just like, whoa, that looks incredible.
Yeah, no, it looks good. I'm actually really excited for it.
Yeah, I'll be seeing that one.
Most definitely. So
the last segment I'd like to introduce, and this is very quick. It's actually another Twitter related thing, though this Twitter is very private. It's a segment I would like to call "Shit the Bride Says."
All right.
In which I read some of her very private tweets that back in 2010, I started this private Twitter so these things she says that makes me laugh hard enough to stop everything and put it, document it in some way. So I thought just once we get it established, we'll see. I'll every now and again read some that she's done since the last time record. So it's 140 characters, so it's short.
Yeah.
But to introduce this very first one, I feel as though I should say a couple of things that I scripted so as not to drone on about. Shit the Bride Says. Now, I'd like to say that she is an upstanding member of our community, an outstanding representative of her profession, and an all-around exemplary human being. My favorite one, in fact.
Yep.
The bride appreciates very classic, corny jokes. However, she also has a wicked, biting sense of humor that I'm really the only one who experiences. So in fact, in March of 2010, I could no longer stand to let this comedy gold go undocumented. So I started a private Twitter account dedicated to the sentences she says that caused me to laugh so hard that I stopped dead in my tracks and tweet them. So far, there have been just under 1,000 posts. And now, for the first time, I will share a few of them with you, our loyal, casual, and first-time listeners.
And Palmer.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes. So, and I've been published. You can publish tweets like in a book form in a couple of ways. So I've done that over the years. So I'm going to read, though, her most recent one because I feel, actually, it's not the most recent one, but it's almost the most recent because it kind of sets up the general tone for her whole feed. I should read, then this is the disclaimer that is actually on the Twitter page just so that she would allow it to exist, even though it's private, no one can see it. The disclaimer says, the bride denies any and all association with this Twitter page, and then parentheses, editor's note, meaning me. Everything found on this page was most certainly said by the bride. So, this is from February 1st, one of two tweets. She said, do you ever have something you know will be funny to say, but it's also really mean, and then you have to decide, is it more important to be funny than to not be mean? I feel like half my life is spent in that debate. So that's kind of sets up everything. So then I think I have like just 4 quick ones I picked out from the early days.
I have just 17 quick ones here.
No, I think it's 4. So this is Thursday, March 18th at 10:09. She says, I said it. What you gonna do, punk ass bitch? It's Saturday, March 20th, 2010 at 11:44 a.m. I hate metal unless it's White Lion. I don't know if you know that band. I didn't. But some White Lion music video comes on. She was thrilled. So, and then the last one's a very super short one that actually was said in the same minute as the next 2 were documented. That says, does exasperation always come with love? Which obviously she's talking about me. And then finally, a 2-parter. If I were kidnapped, would you punch the kidnapper for me? Then immediately she answers her own question rather than letting me answer. You wouldn't need to, because I would have already overtaken them, and I would be holding them for ransom for twice the amount to their loved ones. So that's all. That's the first installment of Shit the Bride Says.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me get to all those things, and I'm mindful of the clock. But
yeah. So
let's get to the business at hand, the stand.
Honey, come on over here, sugar buns. This machine just called me an asshole.
We said at one point this evening, we needed to make sure, I'm glad we have this time, because we need to make sure that the stand gets its fair amount of time and not a short episode.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, we have an hour. Like,
that's reasonable in like the podcasting world. I mean, outside of our normal.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, we'll give it its fair shake. I mean, I will be honest. I haven't. I mean, I listened to that in the chronology, so wherever that would be proportionally 3 years, I would say in the first year or 2. So, but I mean, I've gone through both versions, both the original version and the updated version, the revised edition. I really like the additions to the revised version. It's like the montage of just the random deaths of survivors. It's, I feel like that's like, it's like 10 pages of just almost like a stream of consciousness writing of this happens to this person and this happens to this person and this happens to this person, and all of it is like remorseless. Like there's a little boy that like falls in the well and like starves to death at the bottom of the well, and there's a heroin addict who breaks into his dealer's mansion and gets uncut heroin and doesn't realize that and shoots what he believes to be a normal dose, but it's like 8 times the amount because it hasn't been cut down for street sale.
Oh yeah.
And ODs. And just like all these, there's just this long string of, it wasn't just, and I'm getting ahead. So we'll.
Oh, that's okay. I don't think there's, I did a bunch of kind of book research. Maybe I'll tweet a picture of just like all the fucking papers and notebooks in front of me.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I marked this whole thing at a Dance Macabre to like read, and maybe I will read it, but like later and insert it. But then at a certain point, I was like, well, just fuck all. Then I found the Wikipedia entry, and I was like, Jesus, this is everything but like condensed. And I should have just read this, but I'm glad I read the other stuff. But all that is to say, say we just talk about the things that we remember and like. It's so huge that I don't even know.
It is so huge. All right, well then I'm not going to have we'll just jump around wherever we end up going. So. What were we talking about?
Well, you were talking about one of the things that stood out for you was the chapter or the added chapter about the kind of the way all kinds of different people were dying that weren't necessarily even dying of the superflu.
So, but I just like it. It just added. It added a depth to. It's that whole world building thing again. It wasn't just the flu. You didn't lose. Yes, we lost a ton with the flu, but we also lost a bunch of flu survivors on just like shit luck.
Yeah.
Like and poor choices. So I mean, the heroin addict is a great example of that.
What are you drinking there, by the way?
That's the 10-ton oatmeal stout by the Warped Wing Brewery in the fine city of Dayton, Ohio.
Oatmeal stout. Oh, my God, that looks good. All right, we got to cut this short. I go home and drink. Just kidding.
Yeah. You want to?
Oh, yeah. Let's snap a picture of that bad boy. We'll insert the click there. Yes. It just occurred to me, maybe we should just set up a little bit of what the stand is. And there's like 2 sentences here from the plot summary that I think really sets the stage for anyone if somehow you don't know. And it says, so the stand is a multifaceted narrative told partly from the perspective of the primary characters, and then outlines the total breakdown and destruction of society through widespread violence, the failure of martial law to contain the outbreak, the military's increasingly violent efforts to censor information, and finally the near extinction of humanity. So that's sort of the scene set. But it's the humanity is basically 99.4, I think, is what the percentages of the human race is wiped out from what was like a militarized version of the flu that got out. So anyway, that's how. And doesn't that sound like so many things like the zombie, like
but
Walking Dead?
If you place this in the time frame though of when it was written though, this wasn't a genre yet.
No, yeah, not at all. And it seemed to happen almost by accident.
I mean, this is, I would definitely place the novel, The Stand, in the foundation that created the post-apocalyptic genre that exists today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you couple that with Night of the Living Dead, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, and the culture, those two cultures coming together, and that's how it's so prevalent in media now. So,
did you know? I just found this out because we talked a little and then took a little break, but it says this in the Wikipedia entry. The movie adaptation for The Stand was in development hell for over 10 years. During the 1980s, Stephen King had planned a theatrical film with George A. Romero directing and himself writing.
See?
Not trusting anyone else with the project.
Because he knew how to do post-apocalyptic already. And again, it wasn't even a genre yet. So, yes, I feel like it is so familiar now. But that's because we grew up in a world that had already been influenced by this novel.
Yeah.
Alongside George Romero, all the way up to Day of the Dead.
Yeah, and especially I think probably Dawn of the Dead feels like that. Actually, those two together. Well, the three really.
All three of them. I
feels
would
like
definitely
that
like
progression.
Yeah, I think that is a very granular synopsis. And if you were to tell me if you would agree that if you wanted to do a broad overarching, I keep hitting the mic, and so that's going to be just thumps all through the recording. Sorry, listeners. That was not a good sound.
Oh, in the house?
You go check that out here in a second.
You want to check it out?
Here in a second.
Okay.
But if there was an overarching theme to the book, I would say it's good versus evil.
Yeah, at the most fundamental sort of level.
Yeah. As abstract and as literal at times as you could imagine it.
Yeah.
Let me run and check that out.
Yeah, check that out.
Cool. We're good. Yeah.
Oh, so you were saying that it boils down to this kind of this kind of huge scale battle of good versus evil. And actually, in the introduction to the expanded edition, I think is that it's more or restored. Who knows? Because of the way it was came about. The last sentence of which. Stephen King says, in returning to this long tale of dark Christianity. That's kind of how he characterized it.
Yeah. No, and I mean, and that makes sense. I mean, Mother Abigail is obviously a Christian. And I think is definitely it's not even, I don't even think it's implied. I think it's just defined. She is an agent of God.
Yeah, she believes like God speaks to her directly, and she's
absolutely
like 108, I think.
Yep, absolutely. And
so that makes me think of Batman.
I again with the expanded edition, like I love the bit about her going to the neighboring farm to like slaughter a chicken because the first round of people are finally going to arrive, and she wants to cook them dinner.
Oh yeah, she knew. So she shines.
She like walks the like, yeah.
That blew my mind. That sort of use of that phrase, and basically it meaning the same thing. That was one of the first times.
And that's where Stephen King outshines J.K. Rowling. Is she builds worlds and he has built a universe, like a full universe. You know, with
she's working on
a universe that has mythology, a universe that has like parallel dimensions, a universe. It's so fantastic, and just because there are direct ties to the Dark Tower series, which you'll find.
I got spoilers
soon.
of that. Actually, I looked for just something quick online. And immediately it was like top 10, 15 things you didn't know about The Stand or something. I was just trying to figure out a way into talking about this huge book. And instantly was spoiled that Randall Flagg is like a bad guy that comes up again and again. And in the Dark Tower series, I was like, all right.
Yep.
So now I know that's happening.
But it I mean, are we going to go all the way to the ending? Like, can we talk about?
I think we can talk about anything. Yeah.
So, I mean, and this is really the last, like, in my opinion, this is the nail in the coffin that this book is actually. It is literally showing you this is a book about good versus evil. Is in the desert in Las Vegas. The hand of God. I mean, it's the hand of God that comes down and and grabs the nuke and like sets it off. They're being crucified. Like the quote unquote good guys are being led into with the nuke. And they're like on crosses. They're being crucified by Randall Flagg. And
well, I think that's the intention or what they feared. But having just read it, they didn't actually. They were like gonna drag them in something horrible, or they were gonna. I'm sure it was gonna end up that way. But
right.
But yeah, that was like Randall Flagg was crucifying people, and they knew, and people were dreaming and from across the country of the Dark Man, and yeah.
So I mean, there was all these literal analogies to good versus evil, and then the fucking hand of God coming out and setting off the nuke. You can't like.
Well, and
I mean, how cool is that? Is like God's like, yeah, fuck you, like, gotcha, you know? Like,
yeah, no, it's I was aware of The Stand. So as we've discussed earlier, but in case no one is coming to this or is coming to this sort of fresh, I somehow, being a 37-year-old, white sort of middle class dude, I have not read Stephen King books other than The Shining prior to this last year, or even seen almost any of the movies prior to, like, except for maybe The Shining, and I think I saw The Dead Zone and Carrie. In any event, I've dug into all this, but as a kid, one of my earliest memories of The Stand was a television commercial for the book. I don't know if you remember these being on TV. I looked up and found it on YouTube, and it was actually it was right around the time that this uncut version was coming out. And it was you could kind of be in a Stephen King like book club where they would send you a new one every month because there was so many by that point, and they were
absolutely
big blockbuster hits, if such a thing could be said of a book.
It took me 3 fucking years to get even, and I'm still like just to like 2010. I'm still like 7 years away from being caught up.
And this would have been like 20 years prior to that, and he already had that kind of catalog.
Well, I mean, there are good stretches in his career where he's in 1 year, he would release some weird project, like The Perfect Storm is an example of that, where that is a television script that became a television show, but he released the script as a book. He would release a collection of short stories every other year or so. And then he would release a novel every year right around Christmas time for Christmas sales.
Really?
I mean, this man is just like so prolific. There's just and that whole time he's also contributing to periodicals, contributing to just so much, just doing so much. And that there's a great so Stephen King was on a book tour last year or the year before. He just finished. It's the like Mr. Something trilogy that he just finished writing.
Is it the Night Watch thing, or
I'm not sure. I don't know enough to even speculate what it's called. But he did a book tour for it, and I was going to go to it, but it sold out in 5 minutes. It was ridiculous, like the one here in Dayton, and so. But the last one was in New York, and George R.R. Martin did an interview with Stephen King for the group, like that was at this book signing.
Oh, the
author of Game of Thrones,
yeah.
Like the Game of Thrones books, right? And he, in the interview, he just looks at Stephen King and he's like, "How in the fuck do you write so fast?" And
do you say one word at a time?
No, Stephen King, like, he answers it really seriously. He's like, I write 10 pages a day.
Yeah.
It's not a day. I don't consider my day in hours or anything other than pages. and that day is 10. I need to write 10 pages every single day. And then that way I know I'm being productive and I'm staying up on my craft. So
that's awesome.
And he talks about how, I mean, well, I'm sure you could speculate, like, he could get those 10 pages done before noon if he's like really having a streak, you know, or it could be 8:00. But he stops at 10 and he writes till 10 and that's it, you know?
Yeah, that must be so. I would imagine it takes some discipline even to stop, you know, if you are on a roll.
Yeah.
I know, just whenever I'm writing things, just because I like language, like right now, I do a mix of music I like, or annual mix. And I'm trying to write like the liner notes of how I encounter the song and why I like it. And I'm strapped for free time, so I dictated it. And I noticed that on the one day when I was dictating, I got through the first half. It was really hard I had to stop, but I was like, oh, I know I want to say this about this next thing, and I'm going to forget it. And I was like, nah, I won't forget it. And I got back to it. Sure enough, I was really in a space that day that because I stopped, I lost. And I'm just like an idiot from Rittman, which is, by the time this hits, is that we hit upon that in the last episode, I think, like something about 2 idiots from Rittman. I'm going to change the bio to that. What is it? It's 2 weirdos from Rittman talk movies, bullshit, and Stephen King. Weirdos. That's not idiot. Weirdos. My niece called me that to my face, really meanly. Like, you're a weirdo, and I don't like you. I'm still smarting.
Who said 2 weirdos from Rittman?
I think you did.
I said that.
I think.
Oh man,
it might have been a tag team thing.
Listen, let's have a little bit of transparency with everyone. Let's everybody bring this in here. You guys all come in with Uncle Palmer right now. I got fucked up in that episode with Twinkie, man. Like, I was.
How many beers did you have?
Well, okay, let's be honest with ourselves, okay?
These disclaimers are amazing.
So I'm going to speak in code now. Have you? Did you watch How I Met Your Mother?
No, I know of it, but I'm sure someone listening.
Do you know like their inside joke on that show? What eating a sandwich meant? If they referred back to their college days, eating a sandwich meant.
Oh, okay.
All right, like. All right.
All of these things look vaguely sexual, but
yeah,
I'm sure others know what that means.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
All right. So my phrase, Ash's and I's phrase for that is eating cake.
Oh,
I ate a piece of cake.
Okay.
I ate a few pieces of cake before and during. That's what this is. And during, I don't even know if you guys even noticed, but I'm like down here, like
I did not know.
And then I'm like pounding those beers, man. I can't remember half of what I said.
I remember it all fondly. It was a really nice. It was a really nice kind of insight into that time in our lives. It wasn't just reminiscing, but some stuff that Twinkie brought up really like added new depth and appreciation for a time in my life that I already romanticize and appreciate. So, yeah, you certainly didn't. Well, I don't know. I haven't heard it yet either, and I was drinking quite a lot. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Let us know, folks, if you, because there's shows like this that are dry, at least on my side, not by choice, just by happenstance, and then there are others that are a little loose and wet. Which sounds dirtier than I meant it, but people can maybe weigh in. Let us know what you think at LWDS Pod on Twitter, which is also our email address. LWDSpod@gmail.com.
So there's this text just came in. So not to worry you guys, this is our neighbor, not to worry you guys, but there is a weird noise. Their furnace next door is making a weird noise.
Okay.
I live in a duplex.
Oh.
And there's a burning smell coming out, and our landlord can't come and do anything tonight. So he said if it starts a fire to call 911.
Jesus.
That's what he said. So
fucking hell.
So then she's like, he told me that it's going to get too cold to turn it off, but I feel like it should.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness.
That sounds kind of scary, dude.
Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna we'll just ride this out.
I suppose. Oh shit.
Yeah.
So this is like in the place that adjoins yours, or there's like separated by a driveway, or?
Oh no, like a duplex. So there's like
just a wall between.
We have we have a wall. So,
Jesus.
yeah. Back to the stand. Jesus.
Okay, yeah.
That was, I don't even think that was a long walk. That was just a dead stop.
Yeah.
Like we fell off a cliff there.
Yeah. Just like Stu Redmond fell off a cliff, right?
Oh yeah, he did. He like fell over that hill thing, right?
Yeah.
And
then
that stupid dog found him, which was great.
That dog is not stupid. Kojak was brilliant.
Kojak was brilliant.
It was like a
totally
super dog.
Brilliant. And I love that he like gave Kojak's like epilogue, you know, like you found out that he like sired like some pups and
I forgot that. That's
everything.
Awesome.
And like doesn't he do that in the book? Like he talks about like after they get back to Colorado, how he had like sired pups, or he dies or something, right? Like doesn't he get killed?
The dog? Not that I recall, but maybe. Or
no, because he finds Stu on the way back. That's how they find him. With with Moon. But there's a point in the book where he gives an epilogue on where he's just like kind of just like closing up all the loose ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that Kojak gets one of them. And one of them happens
awesome.
and that happens to be that he like sired some pups and they were good dogs and he lived a long life and all that stuff.
I was surprised at how so as it started. So this is I have not read a lot or listened to a lot of giant books like this. So the multiple threads and stuff were kind of taxing my little Rittman brain.
No, but I don't think it has anything to do with having a Rittman brain. It is I mean this is it is literally a global crisis crammed into a book. It's an impossibility, and somehow he pulls it off.
Yeah, there's some great stuff from Danse Macabre that I think that I sort of singled out to read that I don't want to waste the time, but I might. Do you think it'd be weird if I read it afterwards and inserted it?
No, just read it.
Oh no, it'll take too long. Well, it'll take too long. I'll read you the one thing that might help. It's just sort of interesting where it came from, because nobody reads Danse Macabre, and even could
we tweet the text or like a link to the text?
It's kind of too much. Why did I even bring that up? I don't even know. Just because I went through all this stuff. Oh, but he says sort of like kind of where it comes from, what he was headed, but I don't remember why I brought that up now. Let me just read the one thing where it comes from, and then you said because it's a global crisis, and so
yeah, go ahead.
I'll just read that first paragraph. This is from Danse Macabre. It's like an early 80s nonfiction book written by Stephen King about horror, the horror genre. And in this one part in the last chapter, he talks.
Oh, not that horror. Not that horror. Sorry.
Yeah. In the last chapter called The Last Waltz, he gets to a point where he says, We were living in Boulder, Colorado at the time, and I used to listen to the Bible thumping station, which broadcasts out of Arvada quite regularly. One day I heard a preacher dilating upon the text, quote, "Once in every generation the plague will fall upon them," end quote. I liked the sound of the phrase, which sounds like a biblical quotation, but it's not, so well that I wrote it down and tacked it over my typewriter. Once in every generation the plague will fall upon them. And then there's a couple other things like that, where he had a few of these things that just kind of came in short succession that gave way to this giant. Actually, there's enough. I could read this, and this sets up kind of the rest of it enough. This is the next sentence. This phrase and the story about the CBW spill in Utah and my memories of Stewart's fine book all became entwined in my thoughts about Patty Hearst and the SLA. And one day, while sitting at my typewriter, my eyes traveling back and forth between that creepy homily on the wall to the maddening blank sheet of paper in the machine, I wrote, just to write something, "The world comes to an end, but everybody in the SLA is somehow immune. Snake bit them." I looked at that for a while and then typed, "No more gas shortages." This was sort of cheerful in a horrible sort of way. No more people. No more gas lines. Below, he wrote, "No more gas shortages." I wrote in rapid order, "No more Cold War, no more pollution, no more alligator handbags, no more crime. A season of rest." I liked that. It sounded like something that should be written down. I underlined it. I sat there for another 15 minutes or so listening to the Eagles on my little cassette player, and then I wrote, "Donald DeFreeze is a dark man." I did not mean that DeFreeze was black. It had suddenly occurred to me that in the photos taken during the bank robbery in which Patty Hearst participated, you could barely see DeFreeze's face. He was wearing a big, badass hat, and what he looked like was mostly guesswork. I wrote, "A dark man with no face," and then glanced up and saw that grisly little motto again. "Once in every generation, the plague will fall among them." And so from that little bit, after a big, huge bout of writer's block, he writes those few short sentences that ultimately grows into this epic of, Lord of the Rings like proportion, which he also said that he was kind of interested in writing. And it's so huge. And it starts
so you ran
small.
Across that too, like that, because that's what I had always heard about The Stand was he was trying to write his own version of Lord of the Rings. Like,
yeah. Evidently,
a fellowship of people like crossing the land and fighting evil.
Yeah. He says that only instead of a hobbit, my hero was a Texan named Stu Redman, and instead of a dark lord, my villain was a ruthless drifter and a supernatural madman named Randall Flagg. The land of Mordor, where the shadows lie, according to Tolkien, was played by Las Vegas. So it was a very literal thing, I guess. But it starts so small with these people, and you think, as I did, I thought that, Fran and these people that you're getting introduced to, I knew they'd all eventually meet up somehow, but I got lost in their small stories. And then after a while, as it went and went, I'm trying to keep track of people, but I was so pleasantly surprised by the end, that by the time Stu's fallen off that cliff and Kojak is coming back to rescue him, that's kind of like, it's just a little silly, the dog going to fetch sticks for him so he can build a fire. But the kind of how Larry Underwood's whole past, it's like at that point in the book, that last kind of act, the last maybe 100 pages, all of that small stuff paid off in this big way. Like all of these things actually had emotional impact for me about people that I had grown to become kind of. I was, it's not that I wasn't enjoying the book, but like I was kind of, I don't know. I was just like, how is all this? I've heard this is supposed to be so great, and I kind of got lost in the middle of it someplace. But then it was really all of that work he puts in to the small stuff that really got me to where like I suddenly really cared about Larry Underwood and understood why all of those things with his mother calling him a taker. And then with that slightly older woman, Rita, whom he took up with near at the beginning of the sort of epidemic and downfall of civilization, and then how he became a new man in the free zone or tried to be a better person, all this, and then being faced with they're wanting him to kill kill Stewart, so that, but I don't know. So there was all of these little threads that it's an amazingly satisfying book. Even for a moment, I thought it wasn't going to be, and then it like all came back around. It's this grand story of good and evil. You know, as satisfying as the image on the cover is evocative. I was always fascinated by that image of those two figures, you know, going at it, dark and light.
On the cover, yeah. I know. And they're in like weird, like medieval-esque costumes, you know?
Yeah.
And like, which has nothing to do with the story. When you read the actual book, it's got nothing to do with that. If a good story, if you read a book and it's just a normal book and it's just a good story and it's like a full meal, The Stand is like an entire season of growth of good meals, you know, like it's just so rich and it's so long, but it never feels tedious. It never feels like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get through 1,200 pages. I'm never going to get through all this. Like I always found like, oh my gosh, I only have this much left, and there's so much more that they have to resolve, and like so much. This has to happen, and this has to happen, and how are they going to get it all in with all that's left? So
yeah, I think that's what I was starting to feel like, and but then ultimately was so surprised at how satisfyingly engaged in the characters I really was when there were these big character payoffs, like that one with Larry Underwood or with Stu, and I mean it is everything people say. And I would often joke sometimes myself in college, like I could just as easily write a whole book on this than to try to write a short paper. There's just so much to dig into that it's difficult to know where to begin. And that's why I read the thing about where he did begin, because I found that fascinating to see how then, you know, out of those short things it grew and evolved. And of course, the two editions are interesting. And I guess there was even an interim one in like 1985.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
When the paperback came out, so there's like 3 editions. So yeah, the novel was first published in 1978 in hardcover, and the date in the book was 1980. The events took place, that's what they said, like 2 years in the future. Then the first paperback release in 1980 changed the setting date to 1985. Oh, so there was a 1978 release, a paperback in 1980, and then the 1990 sort of.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then I guess there was a graphic novel published by Marvel in 2008. Did you know that? I had not heard that.
I did not know that either.
And there's the movie miniseries. Did you see that?
I have, and I saw that both as when it like originally aired on television, and I saw it as an adult also. It did not age very well.
I'm on the fence as to whether or not. I don't know. It's super easy to get, and I don't know if I
think it's on Netflix actually.
Really?
Or it was that I watched it. I think on Netflix.
You know, on Netflix is they take things. Netflix giveth, Netflix taketh away.
Oh yeah, they do that.
There's a long and storied sort of history in the Wikipedia. The Wikipedia article, after I did all this research and stuff today in the paper books volumes, and I re-listened to Night Surf on the way in, and the Wikipedia article we'll link on their Twitter is a very nice, concise sort of, you know, the bullet points of what you want to know. But there's quite a section on movies, and there's been various things to fall through, and there's still one where they're planning February 2016. The Stand movie had been put on hold with the rights reverting from Warner Brothers back to CBS Films, and the TV miniseries has been abandoned. Shit, no, that's not what we want to hear. Anyway, they keep trying to make it into movies, like the everyone from like the David Yates and the Harry Potter and Stephen Close, like behind the Harry Potter films, to like Ben Affleck, and it looks like some of this stuff evolved into maybe what the Dark Tower movies are. But it's big, it's sprawling, it's amazing. It's The Stand.
It's The Stand. It's just like man.
Yeah, what are just as we kind of wrap up, what are just random things that stand out in your mind as like, oh, this is, it's a big book. You listened long ago. What still sticks?
I love the Larry Underwood intro, like that whole beginning part. And I'm not sure which one is like if it was in the original one or if it's only in the updated one, but I love how he's he goes through he mapped out the entire history of this man's music career.
Yeah.
And how he's just like this backup singer and he gets this thing and then he does this and then he like writes this one song and Baby Can I Dig Your Man ends up like yeah. That ends up like getting picked up and then it ends up getting syndicated and then now it's getting played coast to coast and wait a minute, residuals are coming in. So they write an album and the album now goes platinum and
yeah.
And he literally overnight goes from playing in bars to having like a single on the pop charts.
Yeah. And then like living with his mom somehow.
Yeah. And, he gets that beach house. And I love that scene. Like he spends, this is how the book ends up being 1,200 pages. But I love how he doesn't mind spending the time to get you to see what's going on. I mean, because the whole description of that beach house and the party that he throws and all that stuff and like is so, just with the goodie bowls that are just like stashed all around the house that they just keep stocked with like, pot and cocaine and how his friend takes him on the beach and he's like, he like breaks the money down with him. He's like, you need to take the money you have left and you need to like go to your mother's and you need to lay low and I'll take care of the heat down here. And like, just that whole story is so, I don't know. I love Larry Underwood, like from the very beginning, like he like that with all of that. It's just so good. And so like, you love him because he's an underdog and he finally makes it as a musician. And then you realize when he goes and like sees his mom, like he's kind of a putz.
Yeah. Like a selfish guy too.
Yep. And then he like, shacks up with that old lady, that woman who ends up going like, it's almost like they're opposite ends of the spectrum, but then end up flipping 180s, like he ends up going totally good and she goes totally bad. So yeah, that really sticks out with me. The bomb scene, like with the walkie-talkie.
Oh yeah, with Harold Lauder, his whole where the dark man like kind of gets to a few of the people over in the free zone and gets them to do his bidding and try to blow everybody up. Something I didn't catch until I read the synopsis in the Wikipedia article is like some of the main characters that didn't die in that explosion didn't die because that's when Mother Abigail came back from her long sort of journey. I missed that, and so
it pulled them away from the meeting, and there was only a limited amount of people left.
Yeah, again, like as the kind of a divine intervention to keep those. Yeah, and she's like, now you guys have to go, and you have to go on foot out there.
Yep,
and one of you will die, and so you're like, which one is it? And then it turns out to be not the one you'd think. Like Stu Redman falls off the cliff.
Yeah, you think he's a goner, but it's not him.
Yeah,
no. And I love Moon.
I can't. Oh, that's shit.
What's his name?
No, not Nick Andros. That's Nick Andros's friend. Yeah, he's kind of slow. Tom Cullen, and he's always spelling things out. Laws, yes. Tom Cullen, yeah. And how great, like characters like that, small characters like Tom Cullen turn out to be really important. The trash can man, he's the guy that
trash can man is like, oh my god,
he's the man. Like you don't think that, but he turns out to be.
And his just like path of destruction across America, like what after the fall of humanity.
Yeah. And that was left out, I guess, of the original publication. And that's the one thing Stephen King said he really felt was the book suffered from that.
I mean,
gap.
It's alluded to. He's the one that burns down Chicago. Like,
Chicago fire kind of, or no?
You know how they talk about in Las Vegas, like, oh, like Chicago. Did you hear about Chicago? Like the whole city like burned to the ground. He started that. That was the gas fire.
Oh, like that's where he's from. I didn't put that together.
That like swept into Chicago and like burned it to the ground. And oh man, and he like, but he falls off of that thing and breaks his arm and gets it all burned. And it's like he just like slathers Vaseline on it, and
and
it like heals all twisted and scarred and gross.
Yeah,
and just like, oh, he's so disgusting.
The version that I have, the expanded version, has a handful of illustrations by Bernie Wrightson. Do you know who that author is, or have you heard of him? He kind of specializes in the grotesque like that. He drew Swamp Thing, and I'll try to show you this picture of that he drew of Trash Can Man when he comes back, when he comes with the nuke.
I bet. Oh,
he looks fucked up. I always imagined him kind of bigger. He's got him all like sinewy, but yeah, that was a big surprise. So it's like I kind of like got lukewarm on the book in the middle, but at the end, all of this shit pays off in really satisfying ways.
Oh, and very surprising. And he does like a really great job of making sure he ties everything up. Like, oh man, he just like boom, 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 over and over and over. But again, he doesn't have any problem spending the time. I love the journey back after Las Vegas with Stu and Tom Cullen, and how.
Can you see that? I don't know. It's all like fucked up.
That is totally fucked up.
Yeah, but that's the Trash Can Man coming back and in that like whatever vehicle he's driving. Yeah, such endearing characters, but like flawed characters. I'm just looking at character lists. You got Mother Abigail, Stu Redman, Fran Goldman. You know, it's a nice coincidence. In 1978, also in Dawn of the Dead, the lead female is named Fran, and she's pregnant after the apocalypse.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It's just a coincidence because the Stand was the Stand was finished, I think, being written in 1975, but it wasn't published until 78. So I don't think George Romero could have even known. It's just or vice versa. Just say great minds think alike, I guess. But yeah. How do you? I know we're wrapping up here, obviously, but just a general, because we both listened to the books. I find it tough sometimes to hear a man reading a woman's voice. Like I feel like I didn't like Fran as much as I might have otherwise because I'm listening to her voice being read by.
I'm going to just tell you right now, though, I would much rather have that though than a woman trying to do a man's voice. I think that is more. I think that's much harder for me too.
Yeah, I guess
much harder for me to get into.
Have you heard that? Like, have you had that experience?
No, well, I mean, just with the female narrator, there's always a chance that there's going to be male characters, right?
Yeah, because if you think about Carrie, it's narrated. A version of it is narrated by Sissy Spacek, but you never.
That's true.
You never,
and I guess it's just when the female narrator like tries to be like tries to be gruff about it. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to. It's the same. It's the same off-putting as a male narrator who tries to do like really high pitch or prissy or like just a bad female.
Yeah.
It's when a male narrator like just knows how to like subtly change his voice just enough to sound a little feminine.
Yeah.
And that's good, you know.
I don't think this is not one of the ones narrated by one of your two favorites. I don't know if I've gotten to one of those yet.
No, it's not.
Well, now I'm bad mouthing it, so maybe I don't want to list who it is, but
I don't know who narrates the Dead Zone. I'm not sure. So,
I wish it were Walken.
It'd be so awesome if it was Walken.
You know, the first thing he does, at least this was the case years ago, he said on Inside the Actor Studio, when he gets a script, is he crosses out all the punctuation.
Yeah.
So can you imagine
and then puts it in how he would say it. Like, that's, that's what he says. So
I just want to read the first line. Oh, it's the stand though, not the dead zone. Shit. And when I get to it, I'll do because I do a walk-in like everybody does.
Oh man.
Oh, sorry.
So
no, I'm tempted, but yeah, I mean, I granted, this is a short episode, but it's difficult without like going chapter by chapter to know what else to really say about the stand.
Yeah, it's just like it's rich, it's dirty in some spots. It's like typical Stephen King. It's totally relentless and unforgiving.
Yeah, it's dark. It's the darkest of his early books for sure. But it's literally that dark and light. So there is this incredible lightness as well at times.
Yep. Man, it's a good one. It's one of the best Stephen Kings there are. So it's definitely makes the top of the list of best Stephen King books for sure. I've seen it on multiple lists in the top. It's just such a good piece of literature. I couldn't recommend it more.
I just found the last paragraph of the long thing I would have read, but it's good I didn't because that's boring. But it puts a cap on what we were just saying. And this is also from Danse Macabre, and he says, blah blah blah. He says the book also tries to celebrate brighter aspects of our lives, simple human courage, friendship, and love in a world which so often seems mostly loveless. In spite of its apocalyptic theme, The Stand is mostly a hopeful book that echoes Albert Camus' remark that, quote, happiness too is inevitable.
Yep.
So you wouldn't think, but of course then the actual, the end of the initial version ends with, Fran and Stu, like they've made it back to Maine, I think, to live where she wants.
Yep.
And he says, Stu says, do you think people ever really learn anything? She opened her mouth to speak, hesitated, fell silent. The kerosene lamp flickered. Her eyes seemed very blue. I don't know, she said at last. She seemed unpleased with her answer. She struggled to say something more, to illuminate her first response, and could only say again, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a little more ambiguous and darker. And then in the expanded version, he adds the chapter.
This ending is like fucked up.
Yeah, it really gets darker still.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what the last line is there, because then essentially Randall Flagg appears.
And this helps like illustrate the immortality of Randall Flagg.
Yeah.
And how he can jump from world to world, basically.
Yeah, that one ends even more. Oh yeah, life was. Yeah, he comes. I've come to teach you how to be civilized. He tells these people, and they're shouting something in joy and terror. And they're kissing his feet, and the dark man began to laugh. He laughed and laughed and laughed. Life was such a wheel that no man could stand upon it for long, and it always, at the end, came round to the same place again. I think it's that thing of like, this has all happened before, and it'll all happen again kind of deal. And once in every generation, a plague will come. There's some really fucked up stuff in where the book comes from that as I'm reading it, I'm like, Jesus, this feels kind of similar to some of the situations we're experiencing in our country now that were kind of going on with Nixon back when he was conceptualizing the book. But yeah, it's The Stand. Palmer Picks and Dave Diggs.
Absolutely, The Stand. Read it. Let us know what you think. Chime in with your favorite stuff. What's that?
I was encouraging listeners to chime in with their favorite bits. Email us at LWSDpod.
Yeah, let us know.
At Gmail or same on Twitter. Let me know if I should weigh in on whether or not I should watch the miniseries. Anyone?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm leaning towards no right now.
I totally think you should read it or watch it. I think you should watch it. It's got a young Gary Sinise in it.
I'm very forgiving of period type
and
stuff.
Rob Lowe.
That fascinated me too because he's in that TV version of Salem's Lot from 10 years after that.
Yeah.
That's
like
as close. Revisit to that. That's as close to like kind of period accurate as when this thing came out. Yeah. I'll watch it. We won't. Maybe it'll be a part of a King Corner later, as I'd say.
Yeah.
But well, thanks for staying up. I hate to think of you getting up in some few hours after this.
Yeah. No worries whatsoever. I appreciate you wrapping up. It was still a great episode. I think we got a lot of good stuff here. Thanks everybody. This has been Long Walk Short Drink episode 12.
Hell yeah.
Listen for more. We got tons of great stuff coming up. So we'll catch you in the next episode.
Cheers.